Okay, here we go. Welcome to Small Talk with Kenya and Dawn. I'm Dawn.
And I'm Kenya.
So we are back with our husbands. This is my husband Sam. Kenya.
And this is my husband, Love.
So we are back with part 2 in our relationship series, and we're talking about compromise. And where we left off, we talked about micromanaging. So we are going to jump right back into it again. Lo, what did you mean by micromanaging?
My wife thinks she has to put her hands on everything in the house, even down to how the dishwashing detergent is sitting on the sink. And I tell her, I said, you can't do that. But it goes in one ear and goes out the other ear. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, a little bit, tad bit. I have gotten better. I had to get to the point where, and it sounds bad, but I don't care. So now I'm to the point where I'm just waiting for all the kids to leave and then I can get my house back. But I have gotten to that point where I have started to let go of a lot of things.
Okay.
But I had to tell myself I don't care.
So what made you want to compromise? I mean, not compromise. What made you want to micromanage? What caused you to feel that you had to be in control?
Because I've always had to be in control.
Okay.
And that was very, very hard for me. And that's why I tell him it was hard for me to let go, because even with us, even years ago, both of us was working 12 hours, but he was working nights, I was working days, and then we flipped. But even in that, all he had to ever do was come home, take a shower, go to sleep. He even had a meal waiting for him.
Ooh.
He had his lunch ready when he got up. Now, I never only got about 3 hours of sleep, but once I got into that routine of doing it, I didn't know how to let it go because I had done it so long.
So what initiated compromise?
I was tired, and I think I got to the breaking point. I was about to I think I just let it go on all of them. And that's when the kids was like, Mom, you do that because you have to, because you want to, not because you have to. And that was him saying, you know, you gotta let go of some of this stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Now let me ask this question. Was it a compromise for you two working opposite shifts?
Oh, yeah.
That was a big, oh yes, that was a big compromise.
But for me, I had done it, I did like almost 20 years I was doing it.
Ooh, that's a long time.
A long time. And I knew it was a big compromise for her because she came to me one day and she said, look, she said, I'm tired. She said, you got to find something else to do. And I said, well, look, I don't want to find anything because my income is going to go from this to that. And she said, no deal. She said, I don't care what your income is. I need you here in the house. So I think then some of her micromanagement might have went down when I got changed job and found a job that was I was at home at night. But I think a lot of that came from that also.
So,
Go ahead.
So would you say it was more of routine for you?
Oh,
It was. It was an everyday routine for me. And that was the thing I had to get him to understand. I said, I feel like a single parent. I did all the school stuff. I did all the homework, all the teachers, doctors, everything. I worked 12 hours too. And I told him, and I know the kids always say, Mom, you spoiled them. You did it. And I did do it after I really looked at it. And I had to say, I was to the point where I was like feeling like I was losing my mind. So I was like, you know what? I can't anymore. And that's when I told him, you know, you gotta quit your job.
So if you had to tell that to somebody out in our viewer land, what would you tell them if they come in, they are very micromanaging, and they realize it's a routine? How would you help them to not have to wait 20 years and get tired for that to come about?
Please let go right now. Our kids, our husbands don't need us as much. A lot of our routine comes from the things that we want to do. And because we've done it for so long, we feel like we are in control of those things. But I had got to the point where those things were controlling me, and I had to let them go.
Good. Okay.
Wow. So, Lo, when you switched jobs, did you feel like then you were making a compromise then? Did you feel like you were making a sacrifice? How did you feel?
To me, when I did that, it hurt my manhood, so to speak, because I was used to making one salary and went to another salary. So it took me a while to kind of like grasp in my mind, like, oh, you know, this is almost like, and you shouldn't let money define your manhood, but at the same time, it did. So it took me a while to do that right there, and it was a compromise for me then.
The other question I have to that is, Okay, so the salary changed, but what was your quality of life like
Oh yeah.
when it changed?
Well, that's a good question. My quality of life went up, and when I say my quality of life went up, the kids, relationship with the kids, my relationship with her, everything, and even my relationship with God changed also because I had time.
Yeah.
Because I was like, dude, I got time to read more now. But at first, when I was working shift work, I was like, I ain't got time to do this, and I ain't got time to do that. But when I changed job, everything seemed like it just opened up.
Wow.
And his work week always started on Sunday.
Yeah.
So he was
Oh.
not gonna miss sleep to go
Right.
to church.
Right.
So everything changed.
And if you think about it, that should have been one of the compromises that I should have been doing, going, not getting a cup. Because one of the guys I used to work with, he told me he worked on the same shift I worked, but he went to church. He said, Lo, it's just in your mind. He said, you can do it. He said, I got up, went to church, and I'm at work, same job. He said, you should got to make in your mind, but I still wouldn't do it. But when I changed jobs, then I was able to do and go to church like I wanted.
So could you then help somebody who feels that they can't give up that time, give up those necessary different things to make that compromise? What would you tell them about that? How would you tell them to get to that place?
I would tell them, look in your heart and realize with that compromise is going to come a great reward. And that great reward is going to be your relationship with God and your family. So I would say just count it like, I'm doing it, but I'm doing it for God.
Because I think that's one of the things that we do. We as men think that we gotta go out and provide for the family, so that means we gotta have so much money to do it. But we don't realize how much it costs us in the process, how it costs the family, how it costs our relationship, as you stated, with our wife. So I think that's one of the things that if I had to say to someone out there, that's the one thing that I would say that you should look at. Even though you're pursuing money, money ain't everything. You know what I'm saying? If you can go in and make those memories. We was talking to someone today about making memories. And if you can make those memories will last a lifetime. Money will come and go. And so it's very important that we understand that that's an area where we have to compromise and not let money dictate us or not allow things to dictate us. We need to go in and be in control of money or the things that come out and make those compromises.
Yeah, and one of the things I thought about when we was talking about compromise about the job, I remember our youngest child, I was getting ready to go to work, and she up to Daddy, don't go to work. That's when I was working nights. I said, no, man, I got to go to work and make the money or whatever. And she said, I don't care about the money. She said, I want you here at the house. So that was a breaking point for me to say, look, you're going to put the money and the job over your child. And now, by me doing that, me and her are so close. And I love it,
Because again, when you look at that, you allow that compromise to come in and say, look, my daughter is more important. And as a result of that, we can see now how that has taken a whole nother level. And that's the thing again. So again, like I say, looking out to people, that's the thing that you want. You want to make decisions now that have a lasting impact. Understand that sometimes compromise will be part of that.
Yeah, and I can relate to the whole job situation. I had taken a job, got promoted, and I was in that position for 3 years. But it was wearing on me, and I could also tell it was really, really wearing on him. And it's funny, we can laugh at it now. But when I would come home in the morning, and he was already gone for work, and I said, wow, this bed looks like it wasn't even slept in. And I could see a blanket folded up, but it was like he was under protest, and he wouldn't even get under the covers anymore. Like he was so mad that I wasn't even at home. And I said, why are you not under the covers? He said, it just doesn't feel right. But when I heard that, I heard him. And I said, okay, he's not going to deal with this too much longer. I'm either going to have to find another job or it's going to be something else that happens. So, but I recognized it, and I really started to kind of dig in and look for another position because I knew that it just wasn't working well for him. But he did make that compromise for me when I took it because we knew that the hours were not going to be right. But I can also feel you on the point of not being able to have time for God because I was working Sundays too. I could work Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, and I would be exhausted. And I didn't do it as long as you did, but I did it for 3 years where I had rotating shifts. And honestly, and my husband, and when I got promoted to another job, I took a pay cut. Because the night differential and all of that stuff and then the overtime. So when I got promoted, my salary still went down. But I tell people now, I could be at, what's it called? What's that SES thing? It's a high top level, whatever, where I work at. But I'm like, they could offer that position to me. And if they said it was night shift, you can keep it. I'll stay right where I am. Night shift is not for me. I believe that you need to be in bed during regular hours.
and with that saying too, you know, that shows your growth. For me, it does. You know, because you can't now. I'm gonna say the devil can't trick me with money. Where in the past he probably could trick me with money, but now he can't trick me with it because I know if I take that money, it's gonna be something behind it.
That's right.
So therefore, he can't trick me with that. No
Yeah.
more. But now, if I hadn't did the move and got my relationship with God, he probably could have tricked me.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, again, it comes with exposure. When you go through life and you start to see the enemy, I always say he's very subtle, and he used those little subtle things to try to get us to think this is more important. This is what you need. You should be doing this. But like you said, you have one time really to make an impact on your children, or impact in your home. And speaking back to my wife, it wasn't that she had to work. I had told her, baby, we'll figure out a way to just survive off what we had coming in. So it wasn't that she had to work. She was choosing to work. And it was getting to a point, like I say, that we were doing like you all. We were kind of passing each other. So when I get in from work, she was trying to get a nap, get sleep in, so she can get up to go to work or whatnot. And when she got to went to work, I was getting ready to go down for the night to sleep as well. So it just, I didn't feel that it was conducive for us in our marriage at that particular time.
No, but I think where we fell into a little bit of a disconnect was I felt like I compromised a lot when he would have to leave. It wasn't necessarily his choice that he, that he wanted to just, leave and go overseas and those things. But I was like, you've had time in your career. Let me get started in mine. So that was a big compromise that we had to make. But I'm glad I had the experience, and I don't want to have that experience anymore.
But going into that, as we look at that, because this probably could help someone out there as well, we talked about it. We talked about me staying in a particular profession that I was in at the time, and we understood what it brought, the dynamic that came with it. So we were willing to make those compromises. And so when it did come in where she was able to go and I was in a different profession, and she started doing us, I understood that she needed to kind of go out and start her life, start her career here and better go. So we were willing to make conversation. We talked about it. We communicated about it. And I think sometimes that's one of the things that we miss out on, that we don't use the time to communicate, to go in and begin to conversate about things that we probably need to compromise on, because you really sometimes don't know the effect that it has on somebody else until you sit down and have that conversation.
And also think about it too, what's important to you might not be important to her. So that's why you say with the communication, if you can talk about it and say, well, look, babe, me and her talk about it sometimes. Me and her talk about communication a lot. And she said, you got to hear what I'm saying. And I want to fix things. I want to fix the problem or whatever. And she said, I don't want you to fix it. See, I want you to just listen. And I have a problem with that,
But again, going back to the communication, even though you realize that you're going on two different perspectives, that you want to do something and she doesn't want, you can find that happy medium. Because it may come to a point where she's willing to compromise. She said, no, I can't give in to you doing all of that, but I can give in to you doing these things. And it still may help you to get the enjoyment or reach your goal. It
Yeah.
may take a little longer for that to come about, but I think communication is critical in compromise.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because we have to be heard. We should be able to speak to one another.
Mhm.
Effective communication
Oh, yeah.
where we are able to listen.
Mhm.
And there's even times, and I think it kind of irritated me a little bit when he sat down with a piece of paper
Mhm.
and started writing down stuff that I was saying. And I was like, what in the world is he doing? Like, what are you doing that for? But I think maybe because I may have been a little bit, a little long-winded, maybe that one time, at one particular time, and he just wanted to, make some notes and be able to address it. But it also helped because we went down the list and we addressed those. Did we or did we not? We went down the list and we addressed those things. So he wasn't just reacting to what I was saying, but he wrote it down and said, okay, well, when you said this, and was able to get that conversation out. And I think it brought us to probably a better agreement, and it did help with our communication.
So
I don't think
is,
you've done it anymore.
so is it? I was telling my wife. I said, look, I say write down everything that you think I'm doing wrong.
Mm.
And when you write it down, it's almost like I got a memo, but I want to see it physical on paper where I can say, you know what, she don't like for me to do this right now. Check it out. And I don't think she's fully got that list ready for me yet.
Well, it's because he kept saying, write down what I'm doing wrong. And I said, it's not that you're doing wrong. Some things you do just aggravates me. And I tell him, you always talking about how much you love me. If you love me that much, stop aggravating me. Because it's small things. And he'll say wrong only so he can be right about it. That's why the list is not complete.
But when we looked at the list for us though, was to go in to effectively communicate.
Mm-hmm.
What it did was, it stopped me from cutting off or trying to answer that question, or try to fix that problem, like you said, fix that problem. So the compromise was to make a note of everything that she said, so that we can come back in, and when she finished, it came to me about effective communication. I took a class and it started talking about effective communication, and once I learned, hey, sometimes, like she said, sometimes a person has to be heard, and she wants to get her point across and not be interrupted. And so from that compromise for me, because I'm like you, trying to fix the problem. So what I would do is just write down those things, and then when it was over, hey babe, you said this here, now let me say my 2 cents, or how can we go forward? Sometimes it was a question, sometimes it was a comment. So it just helped us communicate better. So that was the compromise. So that I didn't come in and try to dominate the conversation. It came to a point where we could kind of talk it out and be able to go and make a compromise and get a solution. Because it's nothing worse than somebody come to you and want to talk about something, but you don't get nothing resolved.
Right.
You don't get anything resolved, and the problem is still there. Now you frustrated, now you mad, now you going to bed with all that anger on you. It was a way, again, to help us to get through a situation, but also help us to be able to conversate in a way that was very effective.
One thing I really wholeheartedly believe is that when you are having a conversation, is you stay on that topic and let's resolve that. I don't personally, I don't like to hear things that may have happened a week ago or 10 days ago that just because it made him angry, that's not the time to bring it up to me. Let's deal with what we are dealing with right now before we move on to something else. And that, for us, that's a compromise.
Yeah.
That's a big compromise for us. Let's just finish what we started. Then we can go to your thing.
That was a big compromise for us too, because that's what he liked to do. He'll say, well, he won't have a problem with me until I have a problem with him. And I always tell him, don't tell me nothing about me. We're talking about you right now. But I always tell him while he's talking about the list, is tell him, if you have a problem with me, talk to me. And he'll say, well, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I said, well, I don't have a problem hurting yours, because in that behavior, it's going to hurt me indirectly.
Yeah.
So, and I always tell him, I love you enough to make sure that you the best person you can be. And that's vice versa for me. Be honest with me. I'm not perfect. I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna do some things. phrase, it helped me out a little bit.
Right. Yeah. I think for us, it's the way that we speak to each other. So I gotta, when I talk to him, I don't want to give my secrets away. I don't want to give my secret. I better hold that. I better not tell that. But we just know how to talk to each other and have a conversation with one another and not speak at each other. We can't talk. That was a compromise. But it's something that we learned. I mean, over 30 some years of marriage now, that's something that we had to learn. And it took a while for us to learn that. It took a while for us to learn it, but I'm glad that we're there.
Amen. Because you know how to hurt your spouse.
Oh yeah.
You know what to say and how to say it. So the compromise is honestly effectively communicating. If I could just tell anybody something to help you right now, it's really learning how to communicate with your spouse or your significant other or your boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever it is. If you can learn to effectively communicate, you can really push boundaries. Compromise in that area is something that's really profound.
It's important too. Because what you guys just said, we learned this a few years ago, only a few years ago after 25 years of being together, that I learned that I talked at him. And I never understood, like, what, do you hear words coming out of my mouth? But in talking at him, he received nothing. And so now, even more so now, everything I'm saying to him, I'm trying to run through my mind first to make sure that I'm saying it the right way, because I didn't understand how talking at him made him feel attacked. So that part of communication and compromise is very important. Be self-aware too, because sometimes we're doing things, and just because we've done them for a long time does not mean that they're the right way to do it.
But in that, can you tell somebody what talking at is? Somebody may not understand it. Tell them what talking at someone really is.
I'm almost embarrassed to say it, because when I understood it, I really was embarrassed. And I'm gonna say this too: we learn the tools to do it. Talking at is, you need to do this, you need to do that. I told you this, that, and it's just all wrong. And even after learning it, I initially after learning it, I kind of slipped back to it, and somebody that I hold very dear to my heart, she said, "All right, TD Jakes." That struck me to my core, because I was like, oh my God, do I really sound like that to my husband? How disrespectful am I? Oh my God, I was just so hurt in knowing that he allowed me to do that for so long. And I'm like, did he ever tell me and I just didn't listen? So please be self-aware. We can be wrong. We're not right in everything that we do. And we have to go back to the effective communication. We have to hear each other and understand what that person is saying. And a lot of times I'll repeat back to him and say, okay, you said this. Is this what you mean? Is this what you're talking about? To double check just to be sure.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that comes back from if you have never had the foundation, somebody that was a relationship that you seen a healthy relationship and healthy communication. You don't have anything to draw. The only thing you know is, I don't say the word chaos, but
bad habits.
Yeah, bad habits. So that's one thing that we work on. I want our kids to see us communicating in an effective way. So when they get married, they can do the same thing, because I always say sometimes you have to break that cycle. You know, and getting back to what she was saying, I don't like to hurt her feelings. I love her so much, but at the same time, I'm hurting our relationship by not being honest with her. So now I'm learning now to open up. If I say, well, I don't want to say that to her, I know go to her the right way and say, look, babe, I don't agree with that right now. But do it in a loving way. Don't do it in a angry way or whatever. As long as I'm doing it out of love, you know, everything's gonna be good.
Well, in that, sometimes you have to go in and know the compromise is knowing when to go in and say it. It may not be that moment. Some things may be better off saying at a later moment. But you said something that was powerful, and I think can help somebody as well. is that sometimes we don't realize how our learned behavior, what we saw in our past, how it has shaped us and molded us. And sometimes because it's so deeply rooted in us that we don't want to compromise.
Yeah.
And it's hard for your marriage, hard for your relationship to move forward because of past trauma or past things that we have learned. So I think, you know, as you stated, that you come to a place where you realize, hey, I gotta make compromise. I can't allow what I saw in my past to dictate who I am now and where I'm going in the future.
And this is something that I definitely want to expound on further. Great points. Hold your thoughts. We are going to take a break here. Please comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and hit the bell so that you'll receive those notifications. We're going to pick up on this point of the foundation, and we are going to move into that point, and we will see you next week. Everyone have a great day.